I'm excited about this next one. I'm excited about all of them, but I love it when authors come on because I love to read. I'm joined by Keith Martin Smith. Nice to have you on the show.
Nice to meet you.
Nice boots, too, by the way.
Thanks, man.
You're making me look shabby out here. Comes in all looking cool. But Keith is an author. This is his second book. It's called A Heart Blown Open. It's a story of a guy by the name of Dennis Kelly who has a very, very interesting story. What drew you to this incredibly unique individual?
Well, it's just that. It's this incredible story. I mean, most spiritual teachers tend to be kind of boring and conservative, you know, if you kind of get to know them. And this guy, he basically kind of makes James Bond look like a wimp when you read about his life.
James Bond is kind of a wimp.
So, yeah, he's led this really dynamic, full life, everything from growing up in poverty and an abusive household to being in the Army, being a major manufacturer of LSD in the 60s and a big force in the counterculture movement, federal prisoner on the run for 5 years from the DEA, and then eventually a Zen priest and finally a full-blown Zen master. So those last two things are just a really curious turn for a guy that had such a kind of a wild...
We had a very interesting road movie there for a while. Yeah, we had the LSD and we had the underground and we had counterculture and stuff like that. And then you threw in Zen Master at the end, and that's where we all kind of got lost. What? Really?
Exactly.
He took a turn right there.
Well, I think the thing that makes his life so interesting is it's really what he was about, what he is about, is kind of the pursuit of freedom and peace through life. So you look at a lot of teachers, you know, the Dalai Lama and things, and they live kind of sequestered from life. You know, their spiritual path is kind of part monastery, part monk. And what makes Dennis Kelly so unique is that he really, the pain and grit of his life is really what he used to seek wisdom and awakening and peace and freedom right in the middle of failing marriages and you know, federal prison and all these other really extremely dynamic things.
I like that. You can sit under a tree and get your inner peace, and you know, that way, or you can go to federal prison and get your peace in a different way. I like that. That's his spiritual fodder. That because he's been there, and I imagine that corresponds to lots of people, that many people he tried to minister to. Like, you know what? I know what you're going through. I've been through worse.
Yeah, that's right. It is. That's true. It's a big part of his teaching. Is you can't really shock him. You can't really. You know, you'll never see him kind of lose his center, you know, sharing some story of your own, because he's been there, he's done it more aggressively, you know, further over the edge than anyone I've known.
What does he think of the book?
He likes it, you know, which is good.
I imagine someone like that who's come from such a place and then moved to a place where you probably want to be a little bit more centered, a little quiet, you know, certainly sharing his story, but you know, to have a book written about it, you know, what's the first reaction when he flipped that last page and looked at you?
He likes the book. The only critical feedback he had was, you know, he said, you had me weeping a lot. You know, I'm not really a weeper. But he thought it's a good story. He really entrusted me to tell the story in my own way, which for me is kind of how he walks the walk. You know, he kind of handed me his life story, and then took his hands away and said, do whatever you want with it. All right. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then was okay with what the final product can be. There's a spiritual lesson in everything you're saying. How did it change you, writing something like this?
I think for me it was really just that. It was about how the kind of grit and pain of life can be a spiritual practice in and of itself. That rather than trying to kind of get away from life and get away from the things that are causing us to contract and, you know, be in a place of emotional pain, really what his life and what his teaching is that you really embrace that. You really embrace the contractions in your life, the emotional pain, the angst, and by going through that and into that, you really can find liberation and peace.
The book is A Heart Blown Open. Keith Martin Smith is the author. You're going to be hanging out at the Bookworm?
Yep, 6 o'clock tonight.
All right, 6 o'clock tonight. You got to go and check this out. There's the information right there. $10 per person, and what a good deal this is to learn something right there and get to hear from the author as well. I love that. Keith, thank you for your time here.
My pleasure.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to bring you your trail report. Very zen coming up after this.